So today I'm going to give you the four words that are going to end pretty much any argument that you're having with your wife, your girlfriend, your female significant other, not your mother. Don't use this on your mom. It's not going to work. Just let her have her way. Now, before I can give you these four words, I got to prepare you a little bit because you can't just go in cold. Okay, you have to have set your boundaries early on in the relationship. You have to understand the type of woman that you're dealing with. Okay, is she conservative? Is she liberal, progressive? Is she, traditional? What kind of woman are you dealing with? And then know from the beginning that you're going to set your boundaries and take it or leave it. She can take it or leave it. Do not adjust your boundaries in terms of if you're a conservative or a traditional man and you want to leave the relationship, you leave the relationship from the beginning, and that's the end of that. Before I give you these phrases, though, I have to tell you how to handle this. Now, in terms of flexibility, yes, you're leading the relationship, but that doesn't mean you lead with an iron fist. You can't just walk around saying it's my way or the highway. I'm the man, so that's how it goes 100% of the time. She's not going to respect that. And if you make it a constant situation where she's never going to get her way and she's going to lose every argument because you're the man, that relationship isn't going to last very long. However, there are times that when something comes up that's important to her, not so important to you, you can let her have her way. And while I'm not advocating playing games, one technique that you can take is if she brings up something that's important to her and you really don't have an argument against it. I wouldn't exactly say pretend to be against it, but I would require her to justify her position. Well, why do you feel that's important? Why do you want to do this thing? In your head, you already know it's fine. You're going to say yes. But if you give her the opportunity to explain herself, she's going to feel like she's convincing you. And then when you say yes, she's going to feel like, oh, okay, this isn't a dictatorship. Sometimes he'll let me have my way on things that maybe he's not a huge fan of, when in reality, you didn't have any problem. I know that that sounds like a little bit of a game, but remember, we're dealing with women here, and a lot of times that's just how you have to handle things, just the way it is. Now, another thing that you're going to want to make sure before you use these four words that I'm going to give you is it's not a foolproof. It's not 100%. You're going to have to be prepared for her to pout and throw her little fit and be angry at you. And she might call you a couple of names. She might, depending on the kind of woman that you have. If you've prepared your relationship properly, when you use these four words, it's going to shut everything down. But on occasion, you just have to be prepared. Do not, as soon as she gets upset and gives you any pushback, if you give in, if you're weak, it don't work out. It's not going to work out for you, okay? So be prepared to hold your ground. Be calm, be stoic. Even if she starts to talk over you, let her get her initial emotional request response in. And then, since you're somebody that you can point to the examples where you say, hey, look, I've negotiated here. I've negotiated there. It's been 50-50 in these types of situations. If you've done that in the past, and now you're in a situation where she's going to argue with you, and you already know you're not budging, it's very simple. The four words you use are this isn't a negotiation. And quite possibly the first time that you say that, she might like it might be like a little bit of a slap in the face for her because it's a good chance nobody's ever said that to her and she's never had to even uh, quantify or even think about the fact that, hey, maybe this isn't a negotiation. Maybe this is just going to be the way that he says it's going to be because he says it's going to be that way. And again, if you have the reputation in your own relationship that you never negotiate and that every time it's an iron fist and I'm the man, so I say, you can't work it that way. But if in the past you have given in when it's really not that important to you and given her the illusion, for lack of a better phrase, you've given her the illusion that she has some say so. Not that she has some say so, because everybody does have some say so. But if you've given her a little bit more of an illusion that you're a little bit more negotiable than you really are, when you use this phrase, when you're in that disagreement, at some point, when you, instead of, put your foot down and all that, I just, hey, look, this isn't a negotiation. And just make eye contact, and that's it. That's it. And if she starts getting mad at you, like I said, be stoic, be calm. You might need to repeat the phrase, this isn't a negotiation. And just that's it. That's all you say. That's all you need to say. Now, if you have the kind of woman who is going to want the relationship to be run 50-50 and not have the man lead, you may have already had previous problems to this. And I'm not saying that you can't have a relationship that way. I'm speaking, if you want the man to lead, then every once in a while the man just needs to say, this isn't a negotiation, right? And sometimes it just has to be the way the man says it's going to be, because he's leading. He's responsible. Okay. The man, under these circumstances, is responsible for the outcome. I can tell you something that used to happen in my marriage long ago, and it happened over and over again until I recognized the pattern. There would be a request for an end goal. My ex-wife would say, I want X and X. I want this to be the end goal. And she would ask me to devise a plan to reach that goal. And then I would devise the plan. And then when I would present the plan to her, I would allow her to negotiate to the point that by the time we implemented the plan, it wasn't my plan anymore. It was maybe 70% my plan and 30% hers, but it wasn't my original plan that I set down to reach the said goal. What would happen? We would not reach the goal. And then whose fault is that? That's my fault, right? It's my fault. Well, because you made the plan. You're the one that made the plan. And over time, I realized I'm making the initial plan and I'm negotiating it away. And she still has the expectation that the plan is going to lead to the goal that she requested, even though I've negotiated away what I felt was the best course of action to get to that goal. That's when I learned. I said, you know what? At some point, you present what your answer is going to be. And if there's too much pushback, this isn't the negotiation. You just look at it exactly like that. Now, I would say if you've prepared your relationship, if you're in a good, strong relationship where in the past you have put your foot down about certain things and it's worked out, when you use that phrase, she's going to be like, well, okay, it's on you now. And that's fine. That's fine. As a man, if we make a decision and the woman's response is fine, that's on you now. That's perfect. That's perfect for us. Perfect. Let us run things the way we want to run them. If it goes wrong, we'll take responsibility. No problem. Easy done. For the most part, that if you prepared your relationship properly, that's what's going to happen. Now, if you're stupid and you try to use that, if you try to overuse it or make that, it's not don't oversimplify it, right? You can't just make that for every stinking thing. Well, where do you want to go to eat? I want to go to Fridays. I want to go to Bennigan's, but I really want to go to Fridays. This isn't a negotiation. No, 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 no. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Talking about the bigger things. Let her just take her to Fridays. All right, just take her to Fridays. That's where she wants to go. Fine. If you want to pretend to give her a little bit of pushback so she thinks that you've been talked into going to Fridays, that's fine. You need to allow a woman to feel like that you're negotiable, right? On the small things. When it comes to the big things, then if you're negotiable in the small things, when you look her square in the eye and tell her this isn't a negotiation, most of the time it's going to work. I'm not promising you perfection. That's for sure. There's no perfect. Have you met women? You just never know what you're going to get. But overall, generally speaking, that's going to shut down just about every disagreement except with your mom. Don't use this on your mom. Okay? Don't use this on your mom. Probably don't want to use it if you have a female boss. Also, test it on your sister. It's low consequence there, and you might get a kick out of her reaction. I would definitely test this every once in a while somewhere else, which is not your wife. But long story short, is in my experience, I have found that if you use those four words, there's no room. This isn't a negotiation. There's no room. And if they want to say, oh, yes, it is, well, now you have a different situation, right? If you have yourself a relationship where the woman is going to question the fact that you have the final say, you have a bigger problem than just this one specific incident. So use it sparingly so that when it's used, right, it works. Don't overuse it, but when you do, it can kind of be gold.